mean, I don't know. Do orcs cannibalize?
I just don't think that would be sustainable because you have to raise the.
We're also thinking about this as adults who are educated.
True.
I mean, we are applying
and we're
anthropology to a fantasy setting where
when a guy drew a map and said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was just a bunch of orcs right here in the middle of all this?"
Right.
Clearly, we're not suspending our disbelief at the moment.
No, we're not.
We're psychoanalyzing this.
We're
trying to rationalize it all.
We're attempting scholarly discourse about a game.
Right.
Which is what nerds do.
Yes.
Well, and I don't think that's bad because I think that makes your game more realistic. And I think if a trip through the Palmarge revealed things that to be not true about things that we had always assumed about that culture, I think that would be a really cool adventure.
Maybe the orcs that we encounter are just lower on the evolutionary scale.
The diaspora, maybe from that country that are they've been forced out and they're trying to survive.
Or those are the border guards, essentially.
Yeah, you point your most brutal weapon out. So you line all these savage orcs on the outside,
like
your true culture is on the inside.
And Dodge Durangos on the borders of Mexico.
That's right. Well, yeah, there could be like this orcish Shangri-La at the heart of this society that we haven't tapped into.
It's funny you say that because in Rolemaster, one of the playable races is a evolved orc. A very intelligent orc.
Rolemaster, the people who did the original Middle-earth game, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I guess D&D really didn't do anything like that, have they?
With the evolved orcs?
Yeah, with like a more
it's always
intelligent...
a half this or a half that.
What about what's an orog?
What is an orog?
Ogre and an orc. Yeah.
I thought there were some other...
I think a lot of these are born out of power gaming, though. I need better stats. Yes.
Well, it seems like I've read that there are other races of humanoid, quote-unquote, evil humanoid that are... Am I totally making up the phrase high orc? Isn't there a high orc?
It would be an orc that was corrupted high elf, perhaps?
I don't know.
Or a really stoned orc.
And
I was going to say, I was thinking James Franco was an orc.
Interesting.
Hey, man, give me back my machete.
God, how that guy keeps getting work, I'll never know. He is devoid of talent.
I don't know. 127 hours is a pretty good flick. He did a good job.
He's right up there with Paul Walker in my book.
Mark Hamill.
Devoid of talent.
Mark Hamill. What?
Yeah, pretty much.
Dude.
I read a cracked article today that was 5 characters from Star Wars who were worse off than Mark Hamill or something like that. And then they rated them all on the Mark Hamill scale. It was like a certain number out of 100. Yeah,
I think I saw that.
It was a pretty older article, but I just kind of follow the recommended when I find an article I like.
Poor Mark Hamill.
I like Mark Hamill. His version of the Joker for the Bruce Timm cartoons and the games is awesome.
And then
he's a great cartoon Joker.
Then we have the Trickster from the Flash show.
That was an ill-fated.
It was horrible.
It was not very good.
I'm just saying, poor Mark Hamill.
So anyway, back to society.
Back to societies.
The Mark Hamill Society.
You know there is one.
There's got to be one.
That's not true. That's impossible.
Wow.
Sorry.
Party killer.
Mark Hamill, yes, he is. He is a party killer.
We should have a Mark Hamill party.
So we've been playing these games for so long. And whenever I say we, I mean like collectively. Gamers have been playing these games. People have been writing these novels. Why are nobody answering questions like this? Why is nobody filling in these gaps?
Because you know what? People probably don't want to know the answers. You know what I mean? If you made a book or you wrote a book about the orc society, I think, and they weren't brutal killers, people would be like, these aren't orcs.
But I think it's been done. And I haven't read it, but I see it in my sci-fi book club.
The orcs, yeah. Orcs. They did one on dwarves, too.
It looks, but didn't they do dwarves first? Wasn't dwarves first?
I think so, yeah.
The orcs book looks intriguing to me.
Maybe we should have, if any of our listeners have read this book, how about you comment and let us know?
It is one of those books that when I flip through the book, I look at it and I go, man, that would be a good, but I'm kind of limited on my budget as far as buying new books goes. If I ever see it at Goodwill, I'm definitely picking it up.
Somebody want to send it to Jason for free.
75 cents.
Well, I don't know. I think trying to keep it in a role-playing game or a gaming sense, I don't understand why we're not. I mean, D&D puts out source books for everything. Why have they not done this? I mean, I know the DM's Guide, Mike, if I'm correct, they throw a little bone at, these are the ways that you can play a different race. Right. It's kind of a spin-off of Eric and I talking about wanting to take the Sea Princess campaign in a new direction. We were wanting to make a ship of all goblin pirates, and that would be great.
Goblin Land Pirates.
That it evolved into Goblin Land
It's
Pirates.
got sails on a carriage or something.
Dude, that would be awesome.
That's what we thought.
Yes.
And that's about where Mike stopped listening to us.
That's the whole middle of Ice Pirates, Mike.
Yeah. So I'm like, why isn't there a book? I mean, because I can play a goblin in World of Warcraft. They're completely neutral. They're tinkerers. They're more like what we would think of a gnome in D&D terms. Why hasn't Wizards of the Coast done this?
Well, and
It's not like they're above putting out a source book.
Right.
You know?
Were goblins bankers in Harry Potter?
Yes. I mean, again, it's an awesome reinterpretation of a
I thought they looked
convention.
like evil gnomes.
Well, they may be evil
Oh,
gnomes.
no, those are goblins. Well, it's just another way that J.K. Rowling is wrong.
Or she's a genius and she's had the balls to change something.
She
I think her
didn't
bank
read
account-
her Tolkien before she wrote her book.
I think her bank account proves that she's a genius.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Lucky.
No.
No, you don't get lucky like that.
You know how many times she was turned down for those books?
Yeah.
Or at least that first one.
Imagine all those people like, why did we turn that down?
They turned down things a lot.
It's funny that
Yep.
the goblins are bankers in our integrated society, yet the elves
We're a slave
are
race.
slaves.
And they look more like,
Look
goblin
more goblin,
to me.
yeah.
Kind of cartoony version of a goblin.
Talking
But
about Dobby?
yeah.
as much as it pains me to say it, yes, we're talking about Dobby.
Dobby was the emotional core of those films.
Is it wrong that I feel bad for Draco? Because he's got Harry Potter picking on him the whole time?
Mark's hate knows no bounds. Irrational hate.
Actually, he's Mark is kind of like our warped version of Barney Stinson. Remember the episode where he talks about the Karate Kid, and he thought the blonde-haired kid was the Karate Kid? Right. I rooted for Johnny, the Karate Kid.
Barney Stinson does it with a bit more swagger, though.
Yes, he's a much more slender, handsome, laid-getting version of myself.
Getting back to the different societies and things like that, I think point of view is a major aspect of this. From the creature's point of view, not from our point of view looking at it. Essentially what we're doing is we're trying to identify with an alien race. I mean, think of that wonderful movie,
Last of the Week.
Starship Troopers. The bug race. One of the best ways to evoke a yuck, evil, that's gross from a human person is to throw a bug at them.
Yes, make it insectile or arachnid in some way.
Whereas in reality, we as humans never know. We could be contacted by an alien race that is a bug.
Yes.
Sure.
Actually, a better point on this rather than Starship Troopers would be the first Men in Black.
Yes.
The cockroach guy.
Yes. Exactly.
But I think the reason why that is, though, is because
177 million.
I think the reason why that is, though, is because people are instinctively grossed out by bugs, spiders, snakes.
Yeah.
Because
If it's got too many legs or not enough legs, it's weird.
But that goes back to a base animal instinct. When we were still in the trees, when we hadn't come down out of the trees yet, we were supposed to be scared of those things because those things could bite us, kill us, it hurts. Those aren't things that our monkey ancestors wanted to mess with.
Well, and also children need to fear these things because it could kill them.
Well, I don't like the word fear. Respect. They should respect those things.
Agreed. But
And let's face it, human beings are the top predator on this planet. There's no element that we're in, save for swimming naked in the ocean, that we're not the dominant species wherever we stride.
Well, except for perhaps deserts and extreme cold. The poles.
But humans have adapted to every single environment on this planet.
As long as they've got their tools. Without their tools,
But that's part of it, though. We don't go anywhere without our tools.
unless you're an idiot.
It's the difference between you've been real honest to God camping. You've gone out into the woods with a pup tent and a sleeping bag and whatever your survival tools. Other people go camping in their giant rented RV.
That's not camping, though.
It's not camping. I totally agree with you.
go to a campsite and stay inside a log building with AC and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's roughing it.
Well, and then what was that guy who's not Bear Grylls, the Survivor Man, would say that you're camping with a pup tent? That ain't real camping.
Right.
Because he's just going out there with a pocket knife.
You're talking about Les Stroud.
Yes, Les Stroud.
Les Stroud could eat Bear Grylls for lunch.
Exactly. Yes.
We have to link back to both those guys too.
These are guys who truly can adapt to their environment. They can go into the environment, find what they need, and adapt. These other people who don't, if you dragged them out of their tent or their camper van or their cabin and kicked them off into the woods without, a clearly demarcated hiking trail, they're going to get eaten by a puma.
Die of exposure.
Right. Or they're just going to wander around the woods until I don't have any water.
All I'm saying is human beings have done a remarkable job of colonizing this planet, and not really for the betterment of
anything.
The planet. Yeah, I mean, we've pretty well pushed everything to the borders of where we want to be.
So you're saying that humans aren't good if we're talking about societies?
I guess the eco-terrorist in me wants to say that humans are a plague on the earth. I mean, and I think for the most part, we do things like any other species would. If any other species was as capable as we were, I think they would do the same thing. I don't think that's unique to humans. If there is life on other planets, I would sentient life on other planets. I would assume they've probably done the same thing.
So I'd like to have a fantasy world where there are several dozens and dozens of sentient races.
Exactly. That's one of the things that's particularly interesting about a fantasy setting, where you've got one planet where there are many apex predators, tool-using, intelligent apex predators, who are all competing for resources.
See, in the Underdark, the drow might be the top sentient race.
And they turn into bugs when they get old enough, so they're just twice as creepy.
Yeah. And so when they do venture to the surface, then the humans, who are supposed to be the top dogs up there, view them as not necessarily as evil, but as a competition or threat.
Right.
Well, competition for resources, yeah.
Exactly. And that's, my thing earlier with the orcs. Maybe it's the defenders who are on the borders who go out on raiding parties and, defend when people come in, and you never get to the center to see what the society is actually like.
A main impulse for raiding is population control. That's why the Vikings did it.
Right. That's true. And that's why the Pope did it too. That's why the Pope had the Crusades, was to eliminate these feuding nobles who were fighting in Western Europe. They were fighting over...
He also wanted to expand the power base of the Christian church.
Well, yeah, but one of their motivations was, we've got all these...
Don't get me started on Urban II. I really hate that guy.
We've got all these feudal lords that are fighting. When you have a lord or a king that has two sons, only one of them gets to inherit the stuff. And the other one's going to want it. So they have a fight over it. So instead of letting them do that, fight here, let's have a crusade and have them go fight over here.
It's just getting rid of your problems and giving them to somebody else.
Anthropologically speaking, anytime there is an overabundance of healthy young males, there's going to be a conflict. Up until modern times, it was like back when you couldn't just turn on the faucet and get your water. When you had to make sure you had access to the river and without it being dammed up by your enemies to the north.
Mostly so you could have access to beer, because you really didn't want to drink the water out of the river.
You never hear about raiding dwarves or high elves.
Well, I think it's because their numbers are too small.
Their numbers are too small.
And they're too well entrenched in their areas of influence. Getting back to the societies, though, I see a correlation between two different societies in two completely different scopes. Orcs and Klingons.
Orcs in D&D?
Orcs in D&D and Klingons. You have your warrior race, but they have their own culture.
Oh, yeah, for sure. A rich culture.
But... once you get deep enough into the society to find it out. Perhaps the orcs in D&D have been oppressed for so long because they're out raiding, they get pushed back, their numbers are being thinned by, the encroaching human and other demi-human races consolidating them into this one area. They don't have the natural growth that a society would have when they're constantly having to replenish their guards and things like that.
When your focus, when all of your energy is going into defense and survival, it's hard to flourish in any other aspect of your. I think that goes for modern societies here.
Yeah, when you put all your money in defense, then education goes to hell.
L5R, the crab, are thought to be the most unsophisticated, uneducated, uncultured.
It's because they got to guard the wall.
Right, because they got to guard the wall.
They spend all of their efforts to guard the wall. They have their own cultures and poetry and all that stuff.
It's really all about defending the wall.
Right.
Whereas the crane, who sit quietly behind the protection of the crab, are, writing poetry and arranging potted plants and doing everything that's...
Feng shui.
Yes.
Right. Something else I wanted to bring up before we wrap this is a one world government and how, like say in Star Trek you have the Federation of Planets, things like that. In our world, that would never happen unless you had
a culture of the world that would conquer the rest of the world.
Right.
Or a true melting pot of the entire world.
Right. With the level of intolerances that are on this
just within
planet,
our own
country.
nation. Yeah.
Right.